Okay, I'm gonna do this video before I start my day. It's the next day after all that drama and trauma. I have to talk quiet because they're awake downstairs and they listen to what I have to say. It's 6:30 a.m. in the morning, August 13th of 2025. I think I hear my son's truck ready to go to work. That man. Who cares if you work if you have no honor? Without honor, you're nothing. Alright, so I'm just gonna touch base on where I'm at with this mess that I have to organize, and then hope it doesn't get moved around like a fucking tweaker moving things around just because there's nothing else better to do in life than to be moving things around. You know, only certain kind of people do shit like that, whether they're high on drugs or not. I'm just saying. So, to make it easy on myself and proficient as best as I can make it, proficient, effective, right? Where it makes sense. And it's done in a timely manner. And for all the things that I need to do in a timely manner with proficiency, honestly is too many to count. But I'm gonna pick 4 battles. 4 areas of battle. Some of them bigger, some of them smaller. And I've already found one person. I'm gonna hire them to help me to start organizing the food pantry. I'm gonna start with the food pantry first in Auntie Shamay's closet, because I've been wanting to get in there for months and months and months. That's the best place to start, and then you work your way out. And to start, instead of having 2 people for what I need to do, I think 1 would be better. So I'm going to start with 1 person who's already offered to help, and I'll pay $200 for the day, providing they stay the whole day. Right? At least 7 hours, maybe 8, providing I don't get harassed to get out. I'm just saying. See how much gets done. Because don't forget, as I'm moving things around and whatever, I'm checking. I'm checking to see if anything got a rodent in it. Alright, being that there's mice in the house. To what degree or not, I don't know, people, because that little cubby that they just put all that food into, with canning jars that are stacked upon each other, in my opinion, from what I could tell, with nothing covering them, and if there's still mice in there, oh my God, I gotta get them out of there ASAP, okay? Let's just put it that way. Plus, that styrofoam wall should have been covered up with a piece of plywood before anything else should have been put in there. And certainly no food items, because it's next to a dryer, for crying out loud. And a furnace. Okay, you do the math on that one in the winter time, with wheat sitting not even 2 feet away from the furnace and the dryer, like in a plastic bin in Mylar bags. Okay, I don't think so. Or a gamma, whatever. Like, that's just, never mind canning jars that are just like, it's fucking stupid, man. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. That's my life. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Family. Chocolate Factory. If I remember correctly, that was like some messed up movie where nothing really made sense and it was just wonkers, right? Well, this is some wonker shit that I'm dealing with here, people. Like, it's like fucking stupid. So, I'm gonna borrow. I don't care. $1,000. I already pegged it. Alright? And I'm gonna budget it out from spot to spot to spot, so I get the help that I need to do what I need to do in a very timely manner with proficiency, so that when winter comes, hopefully it won't get mixed up by spring. I'm just saying. Because, and the reason I say that is because there's only 2 people downstairs that are doing this, okay? Who's doing it if they're both doing it together and laughing, and or if one's doing it and the other one's not aware and is in denial, or they're both doing it but they're doing it at separate times because of whatever psychological issues they got going on to make them do it. The last time when the freezer broke and I was in Auntie Shamay's room and I was going through my canning jars briefly because I had that window of opportunity to see what the hell was going on in there, those jars were mixed up like what Bria did in my bedroom with my canning jars. Yeah. For no reason other than just to play head games. To I would think mess with my head when I found out. What other reason would you go into a pantry and start moving home canned goods and moving them around and taking some from here and putting them over there, opening and taking stuff out and put, right? Just, why would you do that? Other than to hurt the person who is the owner of those items. A tweaker that's strung out on drugs? Yeah, I could see that happening. But for responsible people who pay taxes and go to work and have barbecues with their friends and, you know, stuff like that, why would they do that? So even if I organize, that's what I'm trying to say, even if I organize, and I will, there's no guarantee they won't go back, or whoever will, one of those two, if not both of them, will go back and mix things up again. Because that's the pattern. That's where the sense of control comes in. But that's okay. I've lived through worse. Nothing new under the sun. There's lots of people out there that have this problem like I do. Just most people don't talk about it because it's embarrassing. That's what it is. You get embarrassed. And then when you talk about it, especially if you talk about it against somebody that you love and want to protect and nurture by default, as in a parent wanting to nurture their son by nature, but then are kind of put off where, I don't think so. You know, I don't think so. Not anymore. There has to be boundaries, right? And, you know, yesterday I was talking to a woman, a really nice woman. She was from South Sudan. told her a little bit about what I'm going through, right? Because it's stressful, eh? And she goes, yeah, something. And we went on and talked a bit more, and then, I hope you can hear me. And then, she said, that's my problem. I'm too trusting. And I'm like, yeah, I can relate to that because I'm trusting too. And that's the problem when you have a loved one, right, within your family that you love, and you're not trying to hurt them. The food prep wasn't trying to hurt my son, it was trying to protect my son. But somebody moved in thinking that they're, I don't know, Princess Diana or something, that's still waiting for that silver spoon to come at the hands of my son. And that's why I feel like my son's life is in danger. Because it seems like, there's that old saying, adage, whatever, waste not, want not. Yeah. Haste makes waste. That's what I'm dealing with. Very hasteful people that create a lot of waste. And because they're so wasteful, there's gonna come a day when they'll want, but it won't be there. And sometimes you just have to learn that through experience. Yeah. You have to have something and then lose it to reflect 10 years later how you wish you still had it and never lost it. And if you would have made better decisions and kept what you had and looked after it, you would have had it. But you didn't. You were wasteful. You got rid of it. Yeah. So anyway, I'm borrowing $1,000 on my personal loan. Now Andre wants a bike. The problem with bikes in Surrey, though, and especially in this neighborhood, they're heat scores for thieves who literally stalk people at the grocery store as they're riding in on their bikes. And the last bike Andre had that was given to him by Brad, which was a good mountain bike or I don't know, it was some kind of expensive bike that Brad had for years and years and years and years and years when his kids were growing up. And he ended up giving it to Andre, and Andre went to the grocery store to go buy me milk. He went upstairs, whatever, came back, and the bike was gone. Yeah. And that's been his 4th or 5th bike that's been stolen since he's been here. And even when he was younger, 12 years old, he was riding around, or maybe 10 years old, riding around. He put the bike out in the front yard, right, by the steps. Came inside, went back out, and the bike was gone because somebody walking the streets came into the yard, took the bike, and took off. So, he wants a bike. And I guess Tisha said, well, I'll buy you a bike. I suppose Marina and Marcane told him that they'll help buying a bike. So he's got the bee in his bonnet that somebody's going to buy him a bike. Where I'm trying to tell Andre, okay, fine, because he's wanting to badger. And I'm like, don't badger, right? They're either going to do it or they're not, but technically they can't because they can't afford it. Andre, you're expecting too much. And if they do buy a bike, you don't need a $400, $500, $600, $700 bike because it just becomes a heat score. You can't even ride the bike home from the grocery store without people following you into your yard and going into the garage and looking at your bike with Marina scaring them out if they're not stealing them at the freaking grocery store, okay? So why the hell would you want to bring a $400, $500, $700 bike back to this house? I don't care where you put it because there's nowhere to put it on the inside, right? Oh, well, and he's just thinking about himself, right? So, and I tell him, don't expect Marcane or Tisha or anybody just to cough up money because you want a bike. Anyway, in his little mind, when he's working, he makes a bit of money, but nearly not enough to buy a bike. So, out of this $1,000, I'm going to budget in $300 for Andre to pay for his time to do the things that I need more outside done, just as a reward. If I'm willing to pay other people to help me do things, I should be able to help Andre buy his own bike without being dependent on asking anybody else to buy it for him. All right. So that leaves me $700 to do Auntie Shmei's room, Auntie Tisha's room. I don't even know what I'm going to do underneath that step in the laundry room. But no food is going to be there, that's for sure. No way. I might even just empty it out and leave it for them, and they can do whatever the hell they want with it. Yeah. And I already got an idea, but I'm not going to mention it at this point, what they could do with it. I've already asked Riley to take the canopies that they put outside, because they're not going to last over the winter, because it's fabric, and fabric absorbs moisture. To which, if something sits in an environment that's not heated, it's just a matter of time before it will start to mildew. Cardboard absorbs moisture, and so does fabric. So I have 2 canopies that I'd like to keep for the park, but I have no place to put them. I suppose I could put them underneath the steps if I had to after it's all said and done. So if Riley can't take them, because he has no place for them, then that's where those canopies will go back after the mice have been completely eradicated. Because as it is, it wasn't even 2 weeks ago before we had the mice guy here with Marina going on crying about how these mice were chewing through the frickin' styrofoam on the day that the mouse guy showed up, and she had to clean up all the mess that they left behind. So if that was the case, and that was not even 2 weeks ago, why the hell are you putting food items in there, including jars that aren't even covered up? And the styrofoam hasn't even been like a piece of wood over it to keep the fucking mice out. Oh, well, we got poison on the floor. Yeah, okay, whatever. That's just mind boobery, people. That's all that is. Or if it's not mind boobery, it's just, those young souls. Because that's, and it's more than just a young soul. I mean, you can't get mad at a young soul for not knowing certain things intuitively. Okay? Intuitively. Or just instinctively, right? Or through past memories, because, you just have a way with common sense, okay? Like, how some people can pack a box nice and tight, where other people, they don't have those kind of sorting skills, and they just throw everything in there and it's all mixed up. There's a big difference between the two. Some of it you can contribute to mental deficiency, lack of discipline, laziness. That's a big one. Perhaps a young soul, perhaps. Especially if you believe in reincarnation, which I do. So anyway, I'm going to start where I've been wanting to start, with Rhea. But that never happened. I'd like to work for 7 to 8 hours straight. But I can only afford so much. So if I do Shmei's room, as fast as I can, in a day, and I don't care if they're downstairs or not. I don't. I don't need to wait for them to leave to do what I need to do. And because I never know how my energy level is going to be, that's what makes it really hard to it's like keeping a steady pace, like the good old days. I don't have that kind of stamina anymore. Because I never know what's going to happen the day before the big job comes. And if you're bending and lifting and twisting and moving things around for 5 to 7 hours and reorganizing, you need energy for that, with or without help. And that's why I'm not doing it with that man downstairs, because he's a, what is that called? An energy vampire. He sucks the energy out of me. That's why he goes on the attack as soon as I come in and I want to do something and he wants to fight. Where I just walk away and nothing gets done, and then it gives them the green light to continue doing what they've been doing, which is a sick game, and I want to get off it. I do. So start with the closet, work as much as you can, do as much as you can within a 5 to 7 hour period, hopefully with no hiccups. Then get into Tisha's room. Do an inventory sweep. Reorganize. And empty out what's underneath the steps in the laundry room in terms of that food and those canning jars and everything. And then probably maybe even have to spend another day just organizing the 2 rooms as a final touch-up. Obviously, if somebody's helping me, it will go faster. And that's the point. And then I can move on to outside and work on the sheds. And maybe that person can help me there. And make a little bit of money. And maybe by October, end of October, I'll be caught up. And then I had a light bulb moment as I'm sitting here debating whether I should do a video or not. But I think it's important to show people that you can survive such stupidity as to what I go through in life. You can survive it. No shame to my game. I'm not the one going around destroying people's shit and throwing out honey in a garbage can, okay? I've done my research on honey. I know what I'm doing with honey. There's a reason why I stock up on honey, because it doesn't go bad. It has anti-natural bacterial properties that can be used for different purposes, even in a time of an emergency. But if you're wasteful, no emergencies would ever come to your way, because you would never think that you would need it, because it's in the way or whatever. Anyway, so I want to focus on the closet first and Auntie Shimei's room. Get it prepped to move whatever it is that's underneath the steps and da-da-da-da. That will be one full day, because I have to check things. As I come into the buckets, I have to open them up and make sure that, things are good, right? If they're not good, I need to remove them, right? I have to decide whether maybe I want to give some of it next door for a program development when it comes to providing meals for people that could benefit from that from time to time. Versus going into a garbage can and finding out that somebody threw out honey. Anyway. And with that, I'll pay Andre. I'll make sure he makes $300 so that if he wants, he can go off and buy his own bike. Because there's other things he wants to buy too, right? So that leaves me $700 playroom to pay one or two people to help me over the next month. Just do the heavy lifting and that kind of thing. And somebody who has patience and doesn't want to argue and just wants to get the job done with peace. You know, and make their money and be done with it. Now, in terms of my housing situation, because you know I'm scrambling in my brain how the hell I can get the hell out of this house. And just accepting. I have to accept it, people. There's no way I can live with this man. There's no way after I leave. There's no way. So, I mean, I'm thinking to go, I don't know. I don't need a worker from a homeless shelter helping me to fill out a form for subsidized housing. Not that I'd want to live in subsidized housing, because I don't. Plus, Andre wants to keep his cats, and so do I. Yeah. But I mean, that is one alternative, right? That I can do on my own. Where it would get me, I don't know. And at this point, I don't even think about it because it's probably nothing I would want, because we'd have to give up the cats, and that would just be too painful for Andre. And I've had cats ever since I've had kids, so it just wouldn't feel right without the cats. Plus, you never know, you know, those cats, they're good, you know, to have around, because I really don't have a mouse problem upstairs. Well, I don't. I found one mouse in 14 years. Well, no, I wouldn't say that, but the cats, sometimes they bring them in, right? Either or. I don't have a problem with mice. But apparently there was a problem. Apparently, I'm very suspicious as to how much of a problem there was in that freaking laundry room, because it just seems like, why the hell would you do that if there's mice in the house? This guy wasn't even here to, like, give it a couple of months to make sure that they eat the poison and they're all gone and the outside's all sealed up. That's why we're paying him, so that's why we're paying them, right? You know, they're coming every 2 months and they're checking around the house, the stucco and underneath and between the windows, and so these little buggers can't crawl in, right? You know, no point in killing them if you can't keep them out, right? Like, and you're feeding them, like, give it a break, man. Like, that's just Looney Tune, wonky, Willy Wonka's freaking chocolate factory. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, I can't believe it, man. I'm sorry, boo-boo, right? So I'm like, okay, well, what you could do, maybe, is start a boarding house. Yeah, maybe I'll start a boarding house. Yeah. With a co-op structure to it. There's so many people out there that need housing and stability in their lives. I'm telling you, I could probably have sign up 10 people for co-op housing, like in a border housing sense of way, right? Not roommates. I'm not looking for no roommates. The hell with the roommates. No, this is a boarding house with a co-op freaking program where you are part of the solution and not part of the problem. I don't need much, people. In terms of my personal living space with the kids, that is doable with the right people. Oh, yeah. That is doable with the right people. And you see, this is what my son doesn't know. I'm not afraid to try it out. I've already rented rooms out in the past when I'd rent a townhouse. A boarding house is just more rooms under one roof. I could rent a monster home, for crying out loud. Find a landlord that wants to participate in program development that will give me a good deal. Yeah. Ask Manjeet next door if he knows somebody, because I already told him. When he gave me those figs, I said, well, I'm going to give them to my landlady because she really likes them, right? And we were talking. And I reminded him that like I do anybody I really come into contact with, that I work on a foundation. And that, I've been hooking up with the Africans and we're trying to do something here. And if it's, blows up and it starts to pick up, then, I need you to think about helping with housing development. Yeah, social housing development. Being that you're a property owner and you got connections. Short term, work on boarding houses. Long term, build the co-op housing. I already told James, we need to get into building our own buildings. That could take years. But with the right people, with the right crew, with the right politics, the right lobbyists, the right community activists, we could do it as a group. Short term, who am I going to live with? Tisha? Yeah, sure. She doesn't want that. And I don't blame her. It's bad enough that your mom is going blind and maybe having to look after your mom. But then you've got a child like Amari, which is a double whammy. You get two for the price of one to look after. And just because my son said he'd do it out of duty doesn't mean it's viable or that it's doable, yeah? Or the right thing to do, because it's not. It's not. Can't ask smash and grab Rhea. She showed us her true colors. What's left? Well, when I'm shooting the shit, I'll put it out there. I will see how people respond. And if it looks like it's something that's they want and they need, and they think they'd be responsible enough to make it work as a group, then yeah, I'd consider it. And I'll move. And I'll start fresh. And something bigger and better might come out of it. Why, God? Why are you making me blind? What is it that you're trying to show me that I can't see with my eyes? I wonder how many blind people ask that question as they're going blind. And I wonder if they ever find out the answer. And it's not like I'm going into this idea blindly, because I'm not. because I have experience with renting out rooms to other people. 1 room, 2 rooms, while living inside my house. Whereas if I do a boarding house, I will definitely have my own separate suite with my grandkids, with somebody being paid to come in and help me with things that I will need at that time, the blinder I go. While the house itself will provide safe housing, because you'd have to be selective, right? And it's not easy controlling people with bad attitudes, especially if they're coming in traumatized. And as soon as you're facing homelessness, and you've been facing it, or like me, for example, who's to say I haven't been traumatized? I have been. Just like a whole lot of other people are being traumatized. But sometimes when you're merging together as a group, you know, that trauma can be very disruptive. And it derails whatever it is that you're trying to do. And that's where you have to be careful. That's where that slippery slope comes in, right? But there ain't no rush yet where I have to go out and get a boarding house just so I can get away from that man. I got time to work on that. Yeah, I got time to work on that. But that's not a bad idea, considering the dire circumstances that I'm having to live with, because sooner or later I'm going to have to leave this house. With or without nothing, it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be living with my son. I can't depend on him. He's not trustworthy, and I don't feel safe. And he has nobody to blame for that except himself. Yeah. So I have to can frozen tallow that I took out of my freezer yesterday morning. That's now unthawed in my fridge, which is perfect. And show people what they can do versus just throwing it out and being wasteful. Considering from where it came from and what it took to make it, and what the potential uses of it is in the future. You don't want to lose steam. In other words, I have to can it today, even though I'm jet lagged and sluggish. Right? We bake up here. We get really hot and we stay hot, and it's just ugh. And then put in frustration, whatever. Now I'm bringing in sheets of beeswax upstairs as if I got room for that. And that's not the wax that I was talking about when I asked my son what he did with a huge big box of white plastic, the white colored wax, right? The clear color wax. It's just regular wax. I have a big thing of wax because I wanted to make candles with my kids, my girls, and maybe Marcaine, whatever. But we know that didn't happen. So anyway, so I'm gonna upload this, and we'll start with the next video with the tallow. And I'm gonna go out to the garbage can, because I guess when I was downstairs, that man, he came home, he seen that little pile that I pulled out of the garbage. I suppose he threw it back in the garbage, because Andre went out there, as I told him to go get that Korean bowl with whatever, right, that I got from the Koreans, which is technically an antique or a vintage item. They're throwing out vintage items, okay, that came from the Koreans that were like 98 years, 92 years old, 96 years old, that they used to have from their business when they were young. And that's what they're throwing out. So I should go out of respect to the Koreans and go get that bowl, empty out that fucking garbage can, go through those bags, see what the hell, take out what I want. And then Andre grabbed a couple of those noodles. They're in the sink right now. I have to wash the bags on the outside first. He wanted to eat them yesterday, even though I ordered Mr. Noodle fresh from the grocery store. I said, no, Andre, I don't know. Mercane was saying something about them being outdated, blah, blah, blah. And, I need to wash the bag first, and, we'll open it up, we'll look at it, right? And then the little packets, we'll look at it, and then we'll decide whether it's good or not, right? We can cook it, I'll test it first. If it's good, then great. Because otherwise, as far as they're concerned, it was garbage. It's not because we need it, people, because we should have had access to that food for the last 3.5 years, and we didn't without strife, okay? Yes, Andre was going up and down the stairs, but as if Andre would be looking around saying, oh, gee, Nana, let's start using the food, and some of this stuff was in boxes and stuff, so of course it just sat there. All right, what I'm trying to say is, when I was out there, and I pulled out that bag, and I seen the Korean bowl, and the noodles, and the honey, and then those little containers of broth, beef broth, chicken broth, whatever it is, okay? I opened up one. It looked like somebody had opened it. It didn't look good inside from what I could tell, right? And then there was like 3 or 4 of them that were unopened, which obviously was in food prep for years and years and years and years and years. All right. And I wanted to open them up and just see for myself, because I'm the prepper here, okay? I wanted to see for myself if it held up to the test of time in the way I stored it. To which, after, everything was done with whatever, and I came upstairs and I said, Andre, go and get them. I was going to mention it on my last video, but I got cut off with Andre with the cereal. But I should have known better, and now that it's been brought to my attention that maybe those little buoyant things are not viable anymore, right? Due to oxidization over a period of time with something in I suppose a cardboard container, which would be a no-no, because cardboard absorbs moisture, which could affect the food. Well, I just recently, over the last year, bought a whole whack of those little things. And I got them all just sitting in a box in my room on the bunk bed. To which, honestly, the smart thing to do as a prepper, and I'm gonna do it, is you take what's inside those containers and you put them in a mason jar. Even if you don't seal it, vacuum seal it, as long as it's sitting in a mason jar in a cool, dark place, the chances of it deteriorating to a point where it becomes unusable is almost nil to none. Because the worst you're going to get, depending on what the product is oxidization. But oxidization isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a discoloration. And it might make something slightly more heaty, like coffee. Fresh coffee is fresh coffee from fresh beans. But if all you got is an old can of coffee and you brew up the coffee, it still tastes like coffee. But because the beans are old, years and years and years. The coffee might be a little heaty with that bitterness. Still doesn't mean it's bad and it's going to kill you. It just means you have bitter coffee that at the end of the day, 4 cups later, and if that's all you got and that's all you can afford to drink at that time, and you're a coffee drinker, trust me, you're going to be happy you got that coffee, bitter or not. And that's the point. That's the point that my son misses. Yeah. Which is sad. Okay. So now that I know about these little boy, because they're expensive. They're like $4 or $5, $5.90. Let's see how much they are. How much are they selling right now? Honest to God. And they're throwing them out. So, okay, whatever. When I get into my room, I'm going to go hunt for that box where I have a whole bunch of those things. I'm going to gather them all up. And I've already got boyens in jars. But these ones, I'm going to go out of my way to get them out of those little containers and put them all into the jars. Same thing with those cans. You know when you buy those big cans, or I think they're cans, I'm not sure, I got a couple or 2 or 3 or 4 of them. I'm going to open them up and I'm going to take all that and I'm going to put it into a mason jar. And chances are that's good for 25 years or more. Yeah. Because it's in a mason jar. So what are we looking for? We're looking to see how much those little buoyant things are. So maybe these ones that they threw out, I don't know. I have to open them up and really give it an assessment. Are no good. Which would be even more reason to do it right the first time if you're going to stock up on those types of things, which you should have as a staple, like rice, beans, right? You need flavoring, right? Then as soon as you buy them, take them and put them into jars. The secret is the jar. Okay? That's the secret. Try to avoid plastic and obviously cardboards. And, well, I mean, tin cans and stuff, well, depending on what's inside, right? So, I'm going to gather them up, those little things. I've got jars, so I can work on that over the next couple of weeks. Yeah. And put everything in jars. And see, that's another reason why I should be able to get access to my food prep. So I can see what's surviving and what's not surviving over a period of time as it sits. Versus it just disappearing. And then you might happen to come across it like I did yesterday, just randomly. Wasn't like I woke up thinking I'd find that, right? No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Okay, let's Google. Let's see how much they're selling. Probably threw out $20 just with those 4 that I counted, and that's what I seen. Yeah. What is it called? Beef stock, right? Beef stock. Or beef soup base. Something like that. We just need an estimate. And I've got lots of these. Oh, and they're hard to find too, by the way. Yeah. Grocery stores don't always have them. Nope. So we'll go beef soup base. And beef is harder to find than chicken. if you know anything about this stuff. Yeah. And they're throwing it out. It burns my goat. Here we go. It's on sale right now for $4. 175 grams. Instant stock mix for a great flavor beef. Regular price is $5.06 at this point. Yeah, $5. So just with those 4 containers that I seen there, they threw out 20 of my dollars. And if it wasn't no good when I opened it up, well, do you honestly think I'd keep it? But now that I'm aware and it's been brought to my attention that the cardboard is unstable for long-term food storage, because sometimes, you know, you buy things and you think, oh, it's in its original packaging. It's okay, just take the original packaging and put it away for 5-10 years, and when you come back, it will be fine. Maybe not so much, right? Depending on the ambient temperature, and anti-chimase room gets really, really cold in the winter. So anytime you bring in cold, you bring in moisture, to which, depending on where those things were, I'm not sure exactly where they found them, because I haven't been down there in terms of, you know, it's just, oh, it burns my goat, people, you don't even know. So I guess in the next month, I'm going to take the time to gather up all my stocks that are in whatever, you know, those cans, the chicken cans, they're like 10, 12 bucks a can. Gathering up those little whatever, I'm put them all in one box that aren't in jars, and then I'm going to take a day and we'll do a video on that, and we'll re-jar everything up. I already did one video like that. I took the things out of the plastic, same thing. Don't try not to, you know, plastic, you know, it's just, the more you can get away from plastic, the better off it is. Yeah, but you use what's available to you, right? You do what you can. I think more than anything, that's, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to end this video. There's nothing left to say. I can't stress out about it. I just have to, don't try and change what you can't change. Just work on what you can change, right? You can't change other people. Not that I'd want to change my son, because it's never been about, quote-unquote, changing my son. Oh, you know, as in terms of, like, you know, like with Andre, you're not allowed to do this, and no, you can't do that, and well, you can't tell me what I can do, and that's him now. You can't tell me what I can do what I want, and if I want to do this, I'm gonna do it, and blah, 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 blah. You know, it's not that we tell people things to do because we're trying to change them. Oftentimes it's because we're trying to either protect them or help them. You know, like Andre with the computer. I want you to grow up and to be, you know, a functional human being that knows how to keep their environment clean, yada-de-yada-de-yada. But if you sit in front of a computer for 12 to 16 hours a day, in between running to the stove and frying up eggs and making macaroni or whatever and eating and, you know, a few other little things, but most of your time is in front of the computer, and then it affects your psyche to where you start getting snotty, and after a week goes by with me threatening I'm going to take away the computer because I can't cope with the crap no more, because I'm still going around cleaning up after you as you're throwing things around because you're too lazy to take it to the garbage can or to the recycling bag. You know what I'm saying? Then, yeah, you know, I'm going to do what I did with the computer, but even then I had to give him back the cord. because when I took it from the back, it was on, and he was in the middle of doing something. So, of course, everything just shut down. So, he explained to him, Nana, I have to disconnect from Discord, right? I was doing a live stream when you did what you did. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. I don't like it when I'm on the computer. I do something. I think I exit out. I come back later and I'm finding out I'm still logged in and the computer's been off for 2 days. I don't necessarily like that either, so I agreed. I said, okay, fine, you can take the cord back. And now he's trying to convince me that I can trust him, and he won't use the computer behind my back, even though I'll be sleeping, won't hear a thing, and he knows it. So I'm wondering how much I can trust him, because he said, well, remember the last time you grounded me and it was plugged in and I didn't turn it on? You can trust me, Nana, you can trust me. Oh my God. So I'm on the fence with that. I don't know if I should, because you know how they say, take away the temptation. It's like I have to teach him the lesson of taking away the temptation. No, Andre, you have to give me back that cord. You disconnected from Discord. You disconnected from your live stream. Whatever. I'm even allowing him to see. It was a 20-hour live stream, with most of it with the computer off. And like, he's kind of curious to see if the server will put it on, right? And allow him to post it. And then we're curious to see, right? And I guess it was, I don't know, Minecraft or something? I don't know. So, he wants to see, right? Because it takes time for things to, right? So I will probably let him turn on the computer today. And I'm curious to see if that video actually gets posted as Andre's been grounded from it, right? And then after that, I don't know. I don't know. I know he'll plead with me to, oh, you can trust me, Nana. Last time I didn't turn on the computer. That's not the part I'm worried about. The part I'm worried about is when I fall asleep, or maybe when I leave the house for some, like, whatever, right? Like, if I'm working downstairs or something, let's just use that for example. With that plugged in and I'm downstairs and he knows I'm working, do you honestly think he can control himself and not turn it on and just check in? Sometimes you have to take away the temptation, right? And I'm going to try and explain that to him. It would be best if he could give me back the cord and just accept his quote-unquote grounding, right? Because I tell him my biggest problem with you, Andre, is because I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to control you. I'm not trying to, I don't want to take away the computer, which obviously has helped you in many ways with the reading and the comprehension. And he can do things on the computer that are really, really good, more than I can even do. And he's switched it now. He's even moved on to he can interact the TV with the computer between the two screens, like, because that's what he was going to do when I recorded that, before I recorded that little argument with him. He was threatening to hook up the computer to the TV because I took away the computer cord. That's how cocky he was getting with me. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. You do that, I'm going to end up taking away the TV screen yet. And like, he was working on taking, that's how emotional he got over that computer. He was so determined to hook up the computer to the TV screen because, what he did is he was going to take the cord from the TV. I don't know what he was going to do, but he was going to do something. Maybe take the cord from the TV and use it to hook up the computer. Yeah. Whether I liked it or not, because he was boss. So I want him to understand what taking the temptation away means, and he won't like it. Because it's almost like a pacifier, like a soother, like a little baby blanket. Right? Take away the soother and then you can't cope. Why does the computer have to be plugged in if you're grounded and you can't use it for a month? What difference does it make if I take the cord away or I don't? Because as soon as I take the cord away, no matter what you tell me by I can trust you, doesn't mean that the temptation won't get to you, especially if I'm not around. Because when the cat's away, the mice will play. And I tell Andre that's my biggest problem when it comes to disciplining you. I will punish you. I will ground you for a month. But within 3 days of that grounding, I will give you back the cord to the computer, because I know how important it is for you to do the things that you do with his games or whatever, because he's taken it beyond just a game. He can actually live stream, and he built a server on Discord, whatever that's supposed to mean. When I think of a server, I think of a web hosting site that runs their machines like servers to run the website. I can't see Andre, quote unquote, running a website, but that's the way he makes it sound like, because he has his own server. I mean, for a kid that struggles with writing, because he doesn't like to write, that's a skill you have to develop, and he can get stubborn with that. But when it comes to this other stuff, he's pretty good at it. And I don't want to take it away from him, especially when he's helping me with Amari. Right? So then I try and set in those little boundaries, but of course they quickly get broken, and he gets right back into his old routine. Yeah. And then it just, right, it's like a cycle where I compete with the computer all the time. Because within a week of him playing at his leisure when he wants, for the most part, whether he takes breaks or not, because he will do that on his own, and sometimes he'll go off and do things which creates a break. But he also takes advantage of it, because I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and he's sitting there playing a computer game, and I remind him that he was already playing it during the day, and that's where it needs to stop, and that's where he can't control himself, and that's where I get angry, because then he gets moody, because I want him to shut things down, and he doesn't want to, because he wants to stay faithful to whoever it is that he's playing a game with, because they're not done yet. And because I give in to him, you know, he learns that there's no real consequence to bad behavior. Because even though Nana says she'll ground me for a month, at the end of the day, that month is no less than a week. Sometimes the next day, because I'm just trying to prove a point with him, but it goes in one ear and out the other. Once the game takes over, yeah. And I know it will be an argument if I ask him to give me back the cord. I'm going to see if he will, though. I'm going to see what it takes to give me back the cord. Because if he can give me back the cord, then he can learn to discipline himself, and that's how I'll explain it to him. Because he needs to remove the temptation in order to be able to get a control of the addiction. But he doesn't understand what an addiction is yet, because he's too young, and he is clearly addicted to the computer. What I need to do is get out the laptop, and then he can do whatever he wants on the laptop, because that's quote-unquote a new device. So, untouched territory, right? And I bought him a little music program with its own keyboard and mic, and I think I might have to replace the mic though, and program that he plugs into the laptop, and he can make music. So that will be the trade-off. I'll make sure we get that laptop out next week. So even if I take the cord away, it will be okay. It's the point that I take the cord away from the main computer, right? That's the bigger lesson here. But, you know, he's young and he gets, right, just learning, you know. That will be good. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to focus on getting the laptop out next week, and then I'm going to talk to him between now and next week that he has to give me back that cord. But I'll do a trade-off. When I give him the laptop, then he can give me the cord, and that cord can stay unplugged until the day of this ungrounding. But he can use the laptop within reason in terms of, you want to make music, go ahead. I suppose if you want to check up on your email or whatever, you know, it's a new device, go ahead. But don't sit there thinking you can start playing a game for 5 hours. It ain't happening. No. Okay, so I'm going to come back with canning the tallow that has been frozen for a few years anyway. And whether we use it for frying French fries or whatever, or whether it's used as fat for a candle in the event of you need it, well, that's what we'll use it for.